Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our mid-fall or late fall or um, middle of the first semester webinar here, where today's goal is to continue to provide information to all of our schools. Nothing's new on here, but a chance to kind of break down a little bit of what we shared earlier in the year with you and at other times. So hopefully, if you missed it the first time, you catch it this time. If you heard it the first time, then you get to hear it again. So with that, we're going to get started. As always, if you've got questions, please put those in the chat. Our staff will be answering those. So we will get started with our presentation. First thing we want to share with you is that the information regarding the changes to the fall schedule at yesterday's executive committee meeting, we will be getting that information out directly to you. But in case you've been under a rock or not able to watch yesterday or haven't heard from a friend, the dates for football, volleyball, and girls tennis have been changed. A week has been added to their regular seasons for all schools, and playoffs have been extended a week from what their original scheduled dates would be. So if you are anticipating those date changes, just go to the state finals, the original dates, and extend those a week, and that'll be your new dates for those for the most part. So we'll send more detailed information to you today so you can share that down with your coaches and parents and communities. I want to talk about some eligibility and some forms. Just a few reminders here. Remember, you need to review all eligibility forms. This ensures that no athlete is left off. A good idea for each school, again, is to share with your coaches a printed list of who is on eligibility, so that they have a list of players who they know can play. And then they know who, if they're not on that list, then they shouldn't be entered into a contest at any level. Remember, if they are a transfer, they must have a transfer form filled out and approved by the school. We are starting to see a lot of transfer forms that are being filled out, but they're not being approved by the principal of the school. They're in the system. And when we question the transfer, the school is saying, well, we had the form in the system. Well, but it wasn't approved. So you've got to have that form approved prior to the kid being eligible and having your forms in. Continue to remind you that everyone who participates must be eligible and listed on the certificate of eligibility. This includes any athlete dressed in uniform and dressed in the sideline or the bench area. So please understand that we've got to have them listed on eligibility. Even if they're just dressed in uniform, but they didn't go in, they are still considered having participated by league rule. Any questions on our eligibilities and forms? Before we switch to the next slide, I will share again, as we have had some inquiries on eligibility, we are seeing that there are some incomplete eligibilities. For example, schools have 15 players listed on football when they have a varsity, a JV, and a B team. We know we're missing probably anywhere from 25 to 70-something players not listed. Again, you print those lists off and show your coaches who's eligible. Your coach would tell you, hey, we're missing 70 kids. Where are they? And you would have that taken care of before anybody played, and there wouldn't be any issues. So it's a way to help both of you if you can follow that little tip. I'll move on to the next slide, and we get to violations. Continue to see some violations of the closed season. Of course, we're not running at the same clip that we ran at last year, which is great. Everybody seems to be taking the challenge of no ineligibles and no closed season violations a little bit more seriously this year, because we're seeing to this point less number of violations in these. We still have some coaches who've made some poor decisions in some cases and put their programs and schools in some bad spots since we had our meeting in early August. But it's not nearly as bad as it was. But continue to communicate the open and closed season dates with all your coaches, and just remind your coaches, whether they are a first-year coach and have never done this before, or they have been doing this for 50 years. If it's a closed season, then it's a no. And it's a no as far as their kids getting out there, working on skills and practicing. A few reminders too on non-member schools. Remember, if you're playing non-member schools, South Carolina High School League member schools are held accountable to South Carolina High School League regulations and rules and everything in the bylaws. You are not held accountable to what a SCISA school or an independent or a non-member school does. You are held accountable for following your membership's league's rules and regulations. So if, for example, if another organization allows sixth graders to compete against you, that is their organization's issue and decision. That doesn't give our schools the right to play sixth graders because we're playing in a membership against a membership school that allows that. Playing the non-member would include the dates of the contest. So as we enter into basketball and wrestling, especially, and then head into spring, be mindful that our SCISA schools, they operate on a little bit different calendar. Typically, they're allowed to play about a week earlier than we are. Do not allow your schools to participate in contest against them, because if it doesn't fit in our dates, then it'll be a violation for our membership. The last thing I'm going to talk about on this slide and the next slide will be transfers. Folks, what I will tell you is it is getting increasingly harder and harder for our schools to ensure every detail. And in some cases, we have administrators at schools who don't want to ask questions of the family. They don't want to pry. I don't want to know all that. I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable. I don't want to get the divorce paperwork. I don't want to ask that question. Unfortunately, what we're finding out is because of our inability or not wanting to ask those questions, or we have forgotten to ask those questions, or we didn't just shore up that detail, it's costing some folks during the season, and we're not getting it all clear. And of course, we have letters A through N, and there are several of those A through N that require painstaking details and a lot of verification on the school's end. And it is becoming increasingly harder. What we're seeing is that parents are being dishonest with you. Schools are taking the parents' word for it. They're taking an affidavit. Well, we've got an affidavit that says they're good. Folks, affidavits may be good for enrolling their child in your school for academic reasons, but an affidavit is not good for athletic eligibility. A notarized document, we don't accept a notarized document to verify anything. A notary can sign that the whole family lives here. That doesn't verify the student athlete is eligible. You need to ask questions of the family if they're making a bona fide change of address. And we're going to get into that in the next slide. So please understand that playing ineligibles, especially from transfers, what they're costing is they're costing all of your eligible athletes, those that have been with you, those that have been a part of your program for years, and potentially, they're costing them potentially their whole season. They're costing them the opportunity to play in the state playoffs. So don't allow one or two that have never really been a part of your program to cost those that have always been a part of your program to be eligible and to continue on playing for a state championship. Again, you can't verify it with 100% certainty, then you need to hold that student out until you can verify everything with 100% certainty. Moving on to the next slide. Bona fide change of address. Just a few reminders on this. All family members must make the move. This includes any sibling under or 12th grade and under. You cannot have two addresses. The family cannot leave a student in middle school in the previous county and bring their high school athlete to you and call it a bona fide change of address, especially if the previous school they are using the previous address to keep that student enrolled. Now, if the family makes that move 2 counties over and they leave a child, but they are using the current address and the district recognizes them as a non-district student, then potentially we have a bona fide change of address. But we've got to ask questions on those things. So be willing to ask that parent, how many kids do you have? Where's everybody going to school? Don't feel like it's not necessary to reach out to the previous school district and find out what address that family's using for the other siblings. Parents are going to find ways for their kids to get there, and they're going to find ways to manipulate the system for their kids to be eligible. Don't just take their word for it. Remember, eligibility is not retroactive. It begins once the student meets the rule. So you don't get to determine in the middle of the season that, oh, by the way, this person was eligible all along under this rule. They're eligible once they meet the rule. If they met the rule on August 1, then they'd have been eligible since August 1, even if you determined it on September the 1st. But if what you determined on August 1 for the student to be eligible as ends up being inaccurate, and then you come back on September 1st and say, oh, well, now we've got this, then the student from that point moving forward would be eligible under that exception. And lastly, transfer forms. On the transfer form, we're seeing the place to list who you talked to at the previous school, and it says on there principal or athletic director. What we're seeing on transfer forms are schools are putting down the names of guidance counselors and coaches, and in some cases, assistant coach. The form says, who did you talk to at the previous school? Name, position, parentheses, principal or AD. It is indicating that you need to talk to the principal or the athletic director, not the guidance counselor, who has no idea how athletics work and what they're really answering, not a coach, who may be a really good friend of one of your coaches or you. It is asking you to talk to the principal and AD. And I can just share with you, honestly and openly, as I've investigated several transfers, I have talked to the previous schools who they have listed. You have listed, in some cases, an athletic director or a principal as who you spoke to. I have called that previous school and said, hey, this school has called and spoke to you about this child. I am being told more times than not, nobody has ever talked to me. I have not heard from them via email. I have not heard from them via phone. They have not talked to anybody at my school. In fact, I have been waiting on them to call me. So if you put down who you talk to, make sure you're accurate in who you put down that you talked to at the previous school. Again, all these things are what's going to help cause athletes to be ineligible and cause your programs to suffer sanctions, fines, and possibly miss the playoffs due to ineligibles participating. You've got to be 100% or more sure that the transfer meets the rule. Any questions regarding anything I have covered?
There are no questions.
Okay, great. Hearing none, I will pass it on to, I believe, Miss Dr. Rodan.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner Winsky. Our prayers go out to all of those who are still dealing with the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Now is a good time for us to reset because we're going into week 7. So I want to talk to you guys about ejections. And so one of the things I want you to focus in on is getting your ejection report in. What we're seeing is a lot of times people are waiting for the suspension to be sent to them and the official report and then submitting their ejection report. That's not how this process goes. As soon as the ejection occurs, you need to start getting your information together, your videos together, and then submitting that information to the league that night and no later than 12 p.m. the following day so that the investigation can proceed in a timely manner. Secondly, I think it's important. We at the league believe that education is the way to decrease ejections. So it is important for you guys to come up with a de-escalation plan for your student athletes. I have created a resource for you, or the league has created a resource for you. We ask that you give that resource to your coaches and then also have your coaches to practice these conscious conversations with their student athletes. Not only student athletes, though, but also with spectators and parents, so that we can de-escalate some of these situations quickly. The reason why I want to do that is that we're seeing an increase in kids who are leaving the bench and going toward altercations. And that could create a minimum of one game. And so it is important to communicate to all parties involved what the minimum is, which that's one game for football. But if you look below, those are the minimum for all sports. And so it's important for you to also educate and communicate coaches, spectators, and all those who are part of athletic events what those minimums are and why it's imperative that you actually practice de-escalating situations. A cool head can save a lot of ejections from coming to our desk. Okay, I can move to the next slide. Okay, now Student Athlete Advisory Council. This has been amazing. Our council is flourishing and doing a lot of great things. Our officers just spoke to the middle schoolers, and so we're trying to get a very robust Student Athlete Advisory Council. We actually encourage you guys to have a Student Athlete Advisory Council at your school because it'll be easier for you to nominate a person to be a part of the South Carolina High School League Advisory Council. So this is the process. An AD or a principal can nominate one person from their school. Those nominations will be due by November 22nd. So please be on the lookout for the nomination forms in Tues News. Once they have been nominated, that student athlete has to do an application form, and that application form is due by December 5th. And then once we get all the applications in, we will select by December 15th. We have about 13 students who are seniors this year, so we have some members. We do have some open slots moving forward, and so you would select the students who are able to be selected are your rising juniors and seniors. So current sophomores and juniors are who are the selection pool that you will select from. Okay. And lastly, take out your cameras, take a picture just so you're clear on the dates for our courses and summits. We did have to make a change to the leadership summit. It's been moved from December 12th to January 16th. We do have a health summit coming up on October 24th. We'd really like for all of our members to be a part of this health summit. We'll be talking about mental health, nutrition, and also how to reduce injuries. So we'll have some athletic trainers there to speak on injury reduction as well. And then we have our winter captains course November 14th, and then our spring captains course will be February 13th. If you have any questions whatsoever concerning Student Athlete Advisory Council, courses and summits, the Sportsmanship Award, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, Cottrell at SEHSL.org. All right, and that's all that I have for you. And so we'll be moving on to Associate Commissioner Sarah Hayes. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Dr. Rodan. Good morning, everybody. Just a few updates in relation to our officials. So if you are canceling, changing, or postponing a game, please make sure that you are reaching out to your officials and letting them know. We have had instances where officials have shown up and there was no game, or they've shown up to the wrong school. So make sure that you contact all of your officials for your contest to let them know if there are any changes. And if you don't do that, it will result in you having to pay them for getting there and for that missed opportunity. So make sure that you are contacting all of your officials. Also, just want to take this opportunity to remind you, once making these changes or canceling, please reach out to Ms. Jill White in our office. Don't go into Arbiter and make the changes yourself. Reach out to Jill in our office, because sometimes when those changes happen on your end, we can't see it on our end. So make sure you reach out to the officials and make sure you reach out to us in our office. Also, make sure that you've taken care of paying all your officials to this point. We know that in some cases, this with the recent events that we have had with the hurricane, there might be a few that have been missed, but when able, be sure to take care of all of your officials' fees and also take care of your booking fees. Your winter sports directors should have reached out to you on this for the upcoming season also, but make sure you've taken care of all of your fall booking fees, and then definitely look forward to taking care of the booking fees for the winter officials. So this week is Fall Sports Appreciation Week. We spoke a little bit about this at the webinar earlier this year, but this is the week. So if you're able to put out thank you signs or have thank you signs for your officials at the contest, PA announcements is definitely a simple way to thank our officials, show your appreciation. If you have small gifts that you can give, definitely do that. And any gestures that you do make, submit pictures on the High School League website. Just go to our front page of the High School League website on the scroll, click on it, and submit any pictures that you have of the things that you have done for Fall Sports Officials Appreciation Week. But celebrate our officials if able, and let us know how you did it. Real quick, since this is definitely around the corner, we are a week away from our first championship of the season, our swim state championship meets. Now, in response to Hurricane Helene, we did extend the deadline for swim teams to submit their state meet times, the times needed to qualify for the state championship. And that was extended until today, until 9, to give schools the opportunity to have their region meets, their last opportunities for their kids to qualify for the state championship. The instructions for these submissions can be found on the High School League website. Just go to the swimming tab and it will be there. The state championship dates for swim remain the same. We will still be at the USC Auditorium. Like I said, we'll start next week. So Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Those dates did not change for the swim state championship. So hopefully we will see you there. And then also championship information, the information packet for this will be going out today. We're currently finalizing all of the information. I will be sure to get that out today. There will be ticket information in there, parking information. There will also be a link for you as admin to complete to let us know who is going to be there. Your team is fortunate enough to win or be runner-up. We definitely need your names of AD, principals, superintendents, what admin representatives are going to be there. So be sure to fill out that link that will be in that packet. Also, there is, this year we're doing a little bit something different with the fee for the swimmers. There is going to be a link where you can go on and pay online. If you don't pay online, you can. We will send you an invoice at a later date, but you will be allowed to pay your fee, and that link will be in the packet. And last but not least, your media credentials. That information will also be in there. You will be allowed 2 people from your school to be media on the pool deck during the state championships. That link in there is also going to be in that information packet. So be on the lookout for all of that information today. We will get it to you shortly after this is over. Do we have any questions?
There are no questions.
All right, we will now turn it over to Mr. Tim Kinney.
All right, thank you, Sarah, and good morning, everyone. A couple of winter sports updates here. Rules clinics for basketball and wrestling and winter sports are now available. They're live on big teams. They'll be open for your head coaches October 1st through 31st. Make sure they watch that rules clinic. Some dates, and again, these have not changed, even though 3 sports were changed for fall. These are going to remain the same for winter sports. November 4th is going to be your first practice and tryouts. November 11th will be your first scrimmage. November 22nd begin your first preseason tournament and jamborees. And December 2nd is going to be the first regular season contest. Again, these are going to remain the same. It's not going to change, even though a few fall sports did change. Preseason tournaments here. During your preseason, all games, just a reminder here, all games must be played in the tournament format. What defines a tournament is a series of games, which is a championship and a first and second place. So there's a champion for that tournament. All jamborees, tournaments, showcases, and invitationals must be sanctioned by the high school league for schools participating in them. That includes varsity, JV, and middle school if they are a high school league member. A couple of reminders with these jamborees and tournaments. Make sure that that sanctioning form is filled out and can be found on our website. You need to include with that sanctioning form the bracket, the tournament bracket, and also make sure that we have that principal's signature on there. That's important for Cindy to have on there. Also, if you're hosting a jamboree, you need to fill out and submit that financial statement so Cindy can have that. If you have any questions about that too, email Cindy at our office and she'll get those answers for you. Very quickly for me. Now we're going to turn, if there's no questions, we're going to turn that over to Ms. Romanda with
Good morning, everyone. I hope all is well. Real quick, I try to do this around the same time every year. As we're approaching the playoffs for the fall, we want to make you aware of the fake social media accounts that may be going around. You'll see them on some social media platforms. They may email the principals and ADs. Please be mindful of the league's official social media platforms. An image was emailed to principals and athletics directors earlier this year with the official accounts. And if you need a copy of that, I can send it out as well. Just let me know. You can email me and I will get that to you. And as far it's very important, if you are not aware that the platform is affiliated with South Carolina High School League, please email me. We do not want you putting your personal information if you are not totally aware of the information being part of the South Carolina High School League. And finally, as you've heard several times with the date changes, I will be updating the brackets and they should be updated on the website by the end of the week. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Romanda. Getting ready to close out here, and just want to remind you, I know Charlie spoke about transfers earlier, but as you begin basketball and wrestling, again, you need to be double checking thoroughly those students. If they were not enrolled at your school or your feeder middle school the entire previous year, then those students are considered a transfer, and you will need to start the process to see if they are going to meet one of the transfer rules A through N. So again, I encourage you to thoroughly check those rosters that your coaches will be presenting you. They'll be starting their first practice and tryouts November 4th. So really get with them to see if there are potential transfers so you can get that process started. Before they can participate in a contest, scrimmage, jamboree, the transfer form has to be completed and that student has to be entered on eligibility. We are seeing some violations on that. Charlie has shared that information with you. So I don't want to just continue harping on that, but also want to remind you, if you get notarized documents, that is a no to athletic eligibility. So if they're bringing in a notarized document, that is a no to athletic eligibility. We shared that with you all in the meeting back end. Late July, early August, and we're still receiving phone calls. Well, I have a notarized document. That does not make that student eligible for a transfer. So please check what those transfer rules are and if your student is going to meet the transfer rule. The next slide we're going to talk about is foreign exchange. And I went on before we started this meeting today. You can go on and go through all of them, Sarah. And I looked at the foreign exchange page. First thing, they have to live in your attendance area. They're only eligible for 1 year. But I'm going to let you know, big teams, I think we have like 70 foreign exchange or 60 foreign exchange students that have been put in. And out of that number, there's still like 20 to 25 that have not been approved. So therefore, those students are not eligible because they haven't been approved by your principal. So they shouldn't be on your eligibility report because they're not an approved foreign exchange student. So please, if you have a foreign exchange student, you need to go in and check to see if your principal has approved or has not approved that student. If they have not approved that student, you need to get that student approved, and you need to notify our office if that student was participating in a fall sport. And then some last reminders. As we get into reporting qualifiers for our fall sports, football, volleyball, tennis, that information, you will go onto the website under the forms tab. You will report that information. We will get that updated to reflect the 2024 football qualifiers, volleyball qualifiers, and so forth. You will also see that this is where you will report scores from playoff contest. So we use this information to update brackets. If this information is not reported there, then we cannot update the brackets. So very important that as we enter the postseason, that you are posting those scores from playoffs. Entry forms. We will be getting entry forms out and intent to participate forms out. They will also be located on the website, but we do have specific entry forms for golf, for competitive cheer, for tennis. So we will be emailing that information out to the classification presidents for them to share. And then your playoff financial forms. Reminder that those are due to our office, even though you are not sending any money, you still have to send that playoff financial form to our office for it to be recorded. Jamboree forms, you also have a financial form on that. I know Tim spoke about jamborees earlier, but there is a financial form that has to be completed for jamborees. And before I close out, I just want to encourage our member schools, if there's information that you would like for us to cover. So it might be something that we did not highlight today, but if there is something in future meetings that you would like for us to cover, or even if you would like for us to specifically do a webinar on one topic, if you would send an email here to us at the office, we would be happy to put that together for you and help meet the needs of our member schools. So again, I encourage you, if there's information or specific topics that you would like for us to take longer time and really, get into the trenches with you on that information, we will be glad to do that. With that, if there are no other questions, I would have to check, and the best thing to do would be email Cindy regarding your membership dues. I'm not quite sure exactly when those go out. So you could check with Cindy here at the office, just send her an email. And if we do not have any other questions, this will conclude our meeting. This has been recorded, so if anyone else in your office or school needs to view this, it will be posted on our website later this week. Thank you, and hope you all have a good rest of the week.